Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Passionpreneur Series. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm your host, Brandi, and today we have a really great episode. So, our guest today is Bryan Kramer. He is a coach, business strategist, creator, and founder of H2H Business Marketing, and just an amazing keynote speaker, an all around cool guy. So, Bryan, what you may not have noticed or known is that we actually are spending a lot of time talking about two things that I've noticed from you are cornerstones of your business, which is humanizing your brand, storytelling, and just communicating to other humans. Our customers aren't just numbers, dockets, things like that. They're actual people, and bringing that back into our marketing, our tone, everything. So I'm so excited to have you on the show, Bryan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here, especially with that energy you display and put out into the world. It's such a great place to be with people like that.
Thank you. So I would love to just jump in. I mean, this is for me. This is a sweet spot, and I've really been waiting to talk to you because I feel like a lot of our audience, which just to reiterate, they're 1 to 2 years into their business, so they're still figuring it out for the most part, or it's still a side hustle. And so they really need to nail down what their business is, who they're talking to, how they're going to market it so that it can be their full time. And to me, this is so crucial. How you communicate to your customers, your clients, it's everything. So I would love for you to jump in, introduce yourself, tell us about you, and why should we listen to
Mhm.
you?
Oh, that's a good one. Why? If I don't know, maybe we can convince my wife first, and then we'll. No, I'm kidding. And my especially my kids. I Who am I? I am an entrepreneur, and I started a business. It's now 19 years ago. That will now have been my second of three businesses, um, and it was a marketing and advertising agency here in San Jose, California. I started it with my wife. We co-owned it together, and we built it from the two of us to at one point there was 30, and we had some incredible clients, both small, medium, and huge. Some small businesses that really did some incredible things. We worked with some nonprofits along the way out of just a sense of giving back, and then we also worked with some large companies like Netflix and Mastercard and Cisco, and really had some fun there. So a lot of it really came down to this sense of how do you humanize business when we were working throughout the years in the agency, and how do you humanize everything that you design and write and touch, and so that became our mantra, if you will. Although we had a tagline, serious fun. We like to we know when to be serious and when to have fun. But the human piece of it was how we applied ourselves to our work every day and what we used to create that. And as things got really uh, heated up with, excuse me, with social media, um, it started to level the playing field for people to create two-way conversation around the world for the very first time, and it leveled the playing field for companies, people within companies, to talk to people outside of companies. So there's the first time where companies weren't just talking at you, they were talking with you.
Mhm.
And that changed the game. Now it's been some years since social media has been around, but it's really not that long that it's been around. It's like within all of our lifetimes that it actually was created and invented, which is kind of cool to say. And things changed with how we talk human to human, which is where that got brought forward in one of my presentations. And in that keynote 5 years ago, on stage, it triggered the audience enough that they took a picture of me on stage with that slide, and it got over 140 million impressions. and
Wow.
and that really allowed us to kind of peek into what was important most to people because of the viral nature of what happened. And we took that and then took everything that I had written about for the previous 2 years in blog posts and turned that into a book very quickly, to answer the question of what is human to human in today's technology and age mean. And and we broke that down into a formula that people could follow. Then from that point, it really turned into also at the same time creating a new journey for me personally, because I was able to then go speak about 200 days a year on around the world about H to H, and eventually it led to a TED talk, which was about how sharing powers the human economy. So I had this wonderful journey from this really neat concept that I think is still stands. It still stands the test of time today, because now not only do we have social media, but we also have augmented reality, virtual reality, automation, email automation, bots, um, and the list goes on with all the technologies, artificial. I think I said artificial intelligence, that creates this new paradigm shift of what does it mean to be human. Now, more than ever, it since the pandemic, we actually are all using Zoom and WebEx and everything else, and so there is technology in between us. But I have never seen in my lifetime more connection, which is what human to human is all about. More created connection between two humans while using technology, but it's creating more human connected environment just in the last 6 weeks. So I'm really fascinated by how change and technology has been made, but how we still remain at the center of connection, which is at the center of being human to human.
So true. You bring up a really good point. I mean, I've actually been thinking about this for the past few days. How, not to timestamp this, but during the pandemic, the quarantine, we're all stuck inside right now. We're all Zooming. That's how we're handling our business. We're FaceTiming our friends and family, and it's odd because these weren't necessarily things we weren't doing before, but they've become so important. And our touchstone, like that is how we're able to keep our community together. And even though it's still through technology, there's this weird, I can't even put my finger on it still, but this connection, this stronger connection to people. At least that's what I've been feeling. My friends and my family mostly are on the East Coast, and it's like they're here, you know?
Mm.
And it's so important. So bringing that into your business as well. I mean, for the past 6 weeks, how has your business been affected with the quarantine and everything?
Mine hasn't been affected too much because I work from home already.
Mm.
Well, actually, I'll take that back. My speaking business is non-existent
Right.
because events are deferred. Let's say now my virtual speaking business has completely changed. People are starting to get an understanding as to how to do exactly what you're doing right here with
Mhm.
people, which is really important. Business doesn't stop. People still need to earn money, and we all need to create more opportunities for our business. And so, in order to do that, we need to take advantage of these tools to connect in. I think it's actually kind of a gift. Faith Popcorn, who's one of my favorite futurists, in 1981, she wrote a book called The Popcorn Report, and it was about where the future lies. Now, in 1981, she predicted this term cocooning would happen. Never did she think about the pandemic, but she did think about how we would have access to things like Amazon single day delivery. Not that she pointed out exactly Amazon, but single day
Right.
delivery and opportunities for working from home and being on video calls, and opportunities for never really having to leave your house because everything could be delivered or you could work from your house. And so when she spelled that out in 1981, everyone said, whatever, there's
Oh
no
my
way
goodness.
this is ever going to happen. Come on. And then Back to the Future, came out, and everyone's like, yeah, whatever. It looks cool, but it's never going to happen. And then now fast forward to the I guess you say 2000, 20,000s, 2000s. I never understood how to do that. But anyway, fast forward to now, and everyone is doing that. And not only that, but just again, in the last 6 weeks, we are cocooning all of us, everyone around the world, every single
Right.
person is doing it.
Yeah.
And so it really puts the focus on how do we connect deeper across a screen. And you just pointed out something wonderful where your family is like finally feeling like they're here. I
Yeah.
haven't seen so many birthdays or anniversaries or whatever celebrated on family
Exactly.
Zoom calls before,
Exactly.
and people taking screenshots and celebrating like like 10 to 20 to 50 family members, or like I've seen weddings happen on a beach and then everyone else zoomed in, and they would have never even seen the wedding if they couldn't have made it.
Right.
Nobody would have ever thought about, well, let's put up a Zoom for the people that can't come.
Mhm.
And now everybody can be a part of everything. And I think that there's so much goodness that's going to come out of this on
Definitely.
the invention side. Out of every war, there's some good things that happen. This
Mm.
is a war on humanity, and out of this, we're going to be able to learn how to do business in a new way, regardless of when that vaccine comes out. We'll never be the same again because we're always going to know and remember how these tools brought us together to be more human.
I 100% agree. I couldn't have said it better.
Mm.
All right, so let's dive in. What does it mean to humanize your brand? And how can a startup, like a person who, like I said, they're brand new to their business, they're lucky if they just remember their checklist on a day-to-day basis. What are the steps that they're doing to bring in this human aspect to their brand?
Yeah. Well, so we buy from people, we don't buy from companies, right? So when we're looking at how do we buy from a brand, it's usually something that attracts us to what that is, like a human trait. We are all attracted to the things that make us that bring us in, that magnetize us because of human traits. Like we see in others, and we see in other things what we see in ourselves.
Yeah.
And I talk about this in both HH and Shareology, my second book, about how to create more alignment as a brand so that you are becoming more human. And so there's three different pillars to being a more human company. The first one is simplicity. Simplicity is, we tend to we over complexify. I just made that up.
That's a good
We
word.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that a word. So we make things too complex. Like if you think about, and I know people pull the Apple brand all the time, but just for purposes of the example, we can all say exactly what Apple sells, and we can all get their product pretty quickly, like within the same day, and we can all use their Apple product very efficiently and easily. And so their brand really is the core. It represents simplicity in the absolute best way. And so when we work on simplicity, then um, we start to help our customers and our consumers align with it, because we love things that are simple. And
Mm.
so what we end up doing is we make up acronyms in our business, like synergy, well, even deeper, like SRGT. Get that SRGT report, and you're new to the company. You're like, what's an SRGT report? And you're like,
Right.
oh, well, that's found in the BPT room. And you're like, what is the BPT room? And all of a sudden we need like a definitions dictionary of everything that a company says, because we use acronyms and we use all these things. And guess what happens? That ends up actually being forward facing to the customer. Like the customer gets too nuts. They don't understand your language. They understand their language. And so we need to make things not only simple with what we sell, but how we talk about it. And it isn't talking down to them. It's talking with them, because they're not in your business every day. And so they don't understand what it is that you actually do in simplistic terms. Sounds simple, but it's really not, because we all tend to speak so, like, especially when you get somebody going about their own business. Like I was on a call with my brother-in-law the other day, and he was talking to me. He's a medical hardware sales person, and he was talking about he had the biggest words from the back of the dictionary about this whole thing. I know they're not from the back of the dictionary, but I want to say like they were stored somewhere where I never got to see them.
Oh my goodness.
And he described his product, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it's because he speaks to doctors every day, and even the doctors sometimes, you know, they want to hear like the layman's terms of what happens. My brother and my dad are both doctors, so I have a general sense as to that, which is kind of fun to watch them argue on. That's a whole nother show. And anyway, that's simple. That's simplicity. Empathy is the second one. Empathy is really um, embracing empathy is understanding what your customer is going through and making sure that you're creating and celebrating and feeling and being with them in whatever it is that they're going through so that you can personalize the experience for them. We need to personalize so much now that if you received a mass email and it spoke to like I got a postcard the other day about, do I want to buy a package for a cruise ship? I'm like,
Are you
is it
serious?
really not, is this the right time for that? Like, is that empathy? I
Oh
don't think
my
so.
goodness.
So, you know, we really need to understand what our customers are going through and have empathy for that. Like, customer service is a great area to focus on for that. Many examples, but you get empathy. And
Yeah.
then the third one is imperfection. And it's ironic because every company thinks that they need to be perfect, and there is no perfection. It doesn't exist. Like, what are you trying to do? And yes, we always want to get better, and we want to create a business that really represents the best process and product that we can. But what we identify with most is people and who stands behind them. It's the heart and soul of the company that keeps you in it as a raving fan. And if you celebrate your imperfections, I think that you would be surprised as to how much people want to continue to believe in your company, because that is a trait we all love in each other. Like, for instance, I love it, like, and so does my wife. We love watching people trip and fall. I don't know why. It's just the funniest thing, and I don't want them to get hurt, but I just love watching people trip. It's hilarious to me, and it's an imperfection in humanity that just makes me laugh that we trip and fall. And like, I watch somebody who I know has a lot of money, and he tripped and fell, and he was just laughing, and I'm like, everybody trips and falls. We all trip and fall.
Right.
And so that's my favorite piece, is not just how are we looking at imperfection, but how are we embracing it. Embracing imperfection, especially when it happens, then you know, our response to imperfection is what everybody's watching, and so we need to be as human as possible. And then when you take all three of those and you combine them into one, and then you have what will be the most human engaged company, because now you've got simplicity, empathy, and imperfection in place, and you can layer that on top of other things that, you know, there's a lot of other things that we could talk about, but the most important thing is our human emotions. And so anyway, I'll stop there, because as you can tell, I can keep talking about this stuff, but
No, no, no,
those are the three
this
things.
is so great. I mean, for me, it's triggering all these different things that one we've been discussing over the past 20 days on this series, but also, I mean, it just comes back to where the customer had before you even promote something. Like, think about what is it that your customer, your ideal customer, is actually looking for. How are they going to search for your business? What are they going through? How can you solve that pain point or provide them more pleasure, right? And then what really got me was the imperfection part, because for me, that's huge. So there's nothing for me like, if I see a company who will flat out admit when they've done something wrong, they goofed on something, I respect them so much more than when they're constantly blasting about all the good that they're doing. Right? There's a time and a place for that too, but you're absolutely right. This brings back to the point that there are humans running this business, and there's human error. You know, we need to keep in mind the people that we're talking to and what it is that's really attracting them to us and our services or our products. So
Yeah.
this is perfect. Keep going.
Yeah, awesome. Well, there are that you can layer that into actually into individuals. There are ways that we each share. So this is kind of leaning more into the how do we connect as humans, because that is the secret, right? Like if you can connect with people on their level, then you can really have a much deeper connection that will last as a raving fan or an incredible, outstanding, whatever word you want to assign to it, customer for life. And right now, customers are more fickle than they've ever been because we have so many options, and there's so many different ways that we can get products, and we can switch and flip to anything we want. It's the choose your own adventure game for
Yes,
customers, and we can't control that anymore. It's not like you just have two or three options, like we did 15 20 years ago. And so the way that we want to tap into that is by understanding each individual. So like for instance, and actually, I can give you this link afterwards as well. But one of the things that I co-created with New York Times strategy and research group was a way that people share. It's an algorithm that defines how people share, so that you're not asking them to do something that isn't within their personality type. And so each person, we each are, there's six different types. And the first type is the altruist. The altruist is a heart sharer. They tend to exude heart energy into everything they do and share. And so that's kind of they not only out of the screen when they present themselves, but also when they write and when they reshare people's stuff and when they create content, their heart is really coming through. The second one is the early adopter. That's somebody that loves to learn something new and then turn around and teach it to somebody else. And then the third one is a connector. The connector is somebody that likes to introduce two or more people together. You see this kind of activity happening on LinkedIn or even inside of events when they bring two people together and they say, you two have to meet, or just over email, lots of
right.
introductions and all that. The fourth one is a careerist. A careerist is a thought leader. So they love to put thought leadership content together in whatever form and create that content for the good of whatever it is that they're serving, the product or company or themselves, their own company. The fifth one is a boomerang. The boomerang is the most interesting one to me because it has two meanings. The first one is they like to ask questions of their community, and then get answers, and then actually engage with that answer. So, social community managers are typically boomerangs. The other meaning to that is actually being a troll. A troll likes to ask questions so that they can get an answer out of them, only so that they can come back and pounce on that person. So we'll stay on the lighter side and talk more about the social community managers. The last one is a selective. We we all have a lot of these in us, like different. Each of these everybody may identify with a little piece of each of these. We tend to lean towards one more than the others, but we can be all these things and more. The selective is in all of us as well. The reason I say that is because it's really how we kind of pull out the introvert side of us or the more private side of us. We are more observant. Observing. We like to see things happen from the outside and not necessarily get in there. Like for instance, I know people that would rather just private message or just do email and not do social media, and
Right.
those are going to be more selective type people, where when they do actually share, everyone listens in, and they actually comment more because we never hear from the selective, so it must be important. And I
Mhm.
actually counsel uh, most of my like CMO clients, like go after the selectives, because when they speak up, your brand will jump through the roof, because we never hear from the selective side of your potential customers. And so So yeah, actually, I can give you the link. Anybody can actually go through and they can define in about 30 seconds exact. It'll. I've had over 30,000 people take it, and I haven't
Oh
had
my goodness.
many people argue with me. So it's a great way of figuring out which one you are, and then it will. Yes, there's an email sequence, but there's no sales. It just walks you through how to use that type to your best to your best self to really bring that out. And as an employer, if you understand that about your employees, then you can stop giving early adopter work to your selectives, and you can stop giving altruist heart sharing work to your boomerangs, and stop, so like, or if you create an influencer strategy, then you can make sure that everybody is really given the tasks and the things that really align with who they are, rather than what you want or what you need.
Oh, that's golden. Yeah, I definitely want that link. Thank you for sharing that.
Good.
So I was watching one of your videos on your website, and you got into this really struck me content and how accessible content is. It's everywhere. We have no problem getting it, creating it, reposting it, all of that now. But the the secret sauce is the quality of it. What are we sharing? Can you speak more on that?
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing in everything in life. Everything that we share, that there's something really rich around a conversation when you can get to the heart of something deeper, or the deeper meaning of anything,
Hmm.
and not be surface level. So we tend to connect with people when we get past, like, it's like communications 101. If in communications 101 uh, in my bachelor's degree, that we looked at the onion as the communications layer. And so the more that you peel back the outer layer of the onion, the closer you get. And then the closer you get, the more you actually tend to tear up, because well, because it's an onion. But also it's the same thing as we are, as humanity is. The deeper that we get into anything, into a topic, the more it starts to resonate with us, and we
Right.
start to connect deeper into either that topic or that person or that company. And so the same thing with content. If we stay up here, then that's what we're going to get back. And the deeper that we go into the content, the more it's going to give us a rich, deeper understanding of that person, and how or that company, and how they are delivering or wanting to teach that one thing, whatever that content piece is about. And I don't think it's about length; it's about quality that goes deeper. And so, how do you present remember, simplicity, empathy, and imperfection are brought back into your content, and then that magic layer that sits on top is how do you present something in a new way of thinking, or taking something that is existing, and look at it from a different direction or a different way, and saying, well, have we thought about this? And so it's kind of a mix of all those different things, and it's kind of beautiful because it's art and science, right? um,
Right.
it's like, okay, yes, it's creative writing, and it's our opinion of what needs to take place, but also it's like, does that title or headline resonate, first, and then does the idea of the article actually resonate with my audience, and will my audience come through email, and what's the click rate, what's the open rate? So that's the science part. The art part is that deeper, rich way of looking at something. And I think that's where I counsel my clients to go first, is look at the content and go deeper, and have that different way of observing it first. Don't worry about the analytics, and don't worry about the science part and all that kind of stuff. Write about what you truly see, and do that first, and then with that, then you can start adding a new piece or a new component of the science second. um, Only because if we write about the science part, if we take in like 10 article titles, and this is what everybody wants to hear, I guarantee that most people are going to lose their joy in it, and they're going to stop writing. And that's why most people stop blogging, or they stop doing video, or they stop doing stuff for them or their company, because their joy is lost. They're doing it for the sake of science rather than the sake of our our desire for what really brings us joy, what really lights our fire to get out there and do more of it.
Right.
So I'm in art before science, but I am in art and science. I do respect the numbers. I do. I'm a tool whore. I love social tools. I love math. I love analytics. I love Google Analytics. I geek out like there's no tomorrow. So don't get me wrong, but there needs to be the art before science, if you want to keep that consistency and keep connecting in with your audience, with the humans on the other end.
Right. So now, as far as that goes, I mean, are we talking about on a content level, just emphasizing the why? Why does this business exist? Why are you making this product? Why are you offering this service?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's your purpose? What's the end goal? Why are you doing this? And how does this all thread together? What's your storyline for everything that you do? And where's that leading? Where's that taking us? Where's that going? It's the same thing for us as individuals. Being a business performance coach, I work with uh, uh, 20 plus individuals who are high performers that are great at what they do but don't know exactly, well, till we work together, and I'm proud of that, to actually figuring out what's the end goal. What is the why to everything that you do, so that it's all leading to that one single post, not blog post, the winning post, the stake in the ground at the end. It's kind of like when Gandalf goes to the top of the mountain and he puts his big staff in the ground and he says, "We shall go forward," and we all go, "Yes, let's do it, and we will win this war." And you go, "Yes." We all need leaders that put their the staff in the ground and they lead us to
Yeah.
where that is going, and they are willing to stake their purpose and their why on that in the ground and say, "This is where we're going to go." And that is what the difference is between in my opinion, a good leader and a great leader is somebody who knows their why, puts their staff in the ground, and takes claim over it, and then leads them down the road. Um, there's a whole bunch of other things that we can get into around story arcing and creating, like, what does that road look like? But first things first, claim it, understand it, then claim it.
I love that. And I can already hear questions from the audience saying, okay, we keep hearing about the why, talk about the why, all of that, the origin story, even. But how many different ways can I talk about the same thing? How do I keep it interesting and fresh in my conversations, from my social media posts to my emails that I send out to my blogs? How do I keep it interesting without just repeating the same thing
Yeah.
over and
Oh,
over?
it's such a good question. Well, first of all, don't keep talking about the same thing. The idea is that we are setting it up and then revisiting it every once in a while, and
Mm,
checking back into it. It's not that we are boring our audience with our own personal why. It's understanding again what your audience craves and how does that fit into the why. And
right.
so then you're reverse engineering the content that you're going to be delivering. Number two is figuring out what your story arc is. A story arc is kind of like a heartbeat monitor, where when you see the heartbeat monitor go like this, and it goes up, then it goes down, and it goes up, and sometimes it goes up a little bit, sometimes it goes down a little bit, not as much. And I mean, depends on the strength of the heart, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And we can story arc our intentionally story arc our content, and our we can story arc. This is what I do with when I coach speakers. We story arc their presentation, and we know how that story is going to bring people high, and sometimes bring them a little lower, and sometimes it's going to be just a little bump up, and sometimes it's going to sharply drop. And we want that because it's going to evoke the different emotions that we want the audience to feel. And when we can story arc and plan those different ranges of emotions that we all as humans really desire, because it's what makes us feel more into a brand, a person, or just an emotion that we need to evoke, because that's going to touch our hearts, pull at the heartstrings, as creative directors say. that's going to then bring them along. If you watch TED Talks are brilliant at story arcing.
Yeah,
They story arc up front with a disorienting event, and then they bring in the why, and then they bring in the change that needs to happen, and then finally the how. And so that's what we want to do is in our content we want to create the same level of story arcing, and in that we can bring in some really deep in the in the trenches stuff that explains the how, and then we can go 5,000 feet up and story arc up and explain the why, and then we can get into the who, and then there's so many different levels and layers of content that we can create within that whole within the story arc itself.
that was perfect. I've actually never heard it explained in that way. That actually makes sense.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, thank you. So this 30 minutes goes by so fast. I can't believe it. I do want to touch on a couple more things before we finish. We talked a lot about the future, from 1981, what the future looked like to now. And again, this was something I saw on your website, and it really struck me as well, your idea of the future of marketing. So I'm curious now, where we are being in quarantine, with all the changes with technology we've experienced in these past 6, 8 weeks, where do you see this going for us, for business owners?
In specifically to marketing.
Yes.
Okay. um so it's it's so interesting. um I wish I had a crystal ball, so I'll just give you my opinion. I don't, who knows, right?
Mhm.
Because we didn't even know this thing was going to happen 2 months
Right.
ago. So it's like, what the heck? And anything could happen now at this point. So um, I think the biggest thing right now, and I'll give you the future answer, but for now, I'm recommending that we only plan 30, 45, or maybe 90 days out, and that's it. Um, well, bigger companies still need to plan like their events for next year and all that stuff. And I get that. But I'm just talking about like short term marketing goals, like what are we going to do and how we're going to function. I
Mhm.
think short term sprints are the way to go. So, don't create something in 90 days that could be completely not, it may not work because the whole environment could change. So just plan short term and just take these little sprints and then see where the environment is, and then plan again. And I know that's opposite what we've all been taught as marketers, because we've all been taught to like come out with our quarterly plans, and then what's our annual this, and how is this going to map to the greater strategy, and blah. And you're like, and you can't do that. You just can't do that. So don't do that. So there you go. That's that. And then the future, where is it all heading? Well, it's still going to be humans and technology working together. Not, and where we're putting the emphasis right now is a little too much on technology. Um, and how we use technology to get our message out has become a little less human. Like bots and like
Mhm.
email automation and like the ads that people put across. I got served a bra ad the other day. Okay. There's all kinds of different ways that marketers cannot be so, um, dare I say, lazy to what they're putting out there, and really segment and personalize your message. And remember I said empathy, be empathetic towards what other people are going through. Right now is not a time yet. It will be very soon, but it's a time. It Now is the time to help, not sell. And so,
Oh, good.
so you really want to help people right now, and the more that you help with within uh, this space of giving and being there for others, is now's the time to do it. And if you're thinking, oh my god, my business will not survive, I have nothing to give,
Mhm.
uh, you have plenty to give. Everybody has plenty to give. You could give just by listening. You can give just by asking a question. Giving isn't money. Giving isn't just, the things that we all think of in terms of giving or of our resources. It's also in giving in terms of giving people a space to just be and talk and listen and create the space for them to come up with ideas. It's providing things like what you're doing here on a 20 what is it 20-day
21 day.
21 day. Yeah, and giving people more resources and encouraging them to use that to think of new ways. And then finally, I'll say I think everybody's overwhelmed. There's an overwhelming of options for marketing that's out there that is really hard for people to figure out, like, what do I do next, especially if they're small business and medium sized business. Like, how do I um, how do I create a 3% increase in my business as we planned last year? I can't survive anymore on that. And oftentimes, if we just look at our business in terms of just little small shifts, those little small shifts are actually what's needed. So turning something that you already are doing, just kind of turning a dial just a little bit and testing that out. And then if it doesn't work, go turn a different dial and test that out. And just try not to pivot, and try to just turn the dials of what you already have. Don't play into the crisis. Be there and just turn the little dials and see what happens. And I think that most companies, most businesses have that availability to take a step back, look into their business, see what's there, and then just make those little 1 degree shifts.
I love that. That's so powerful. I mean, and for me, one of the coolest things I've seen is just how local businesses have been able to do that. How they've been like the first week, I think we were all just kind of in shock.
Mm,
And then there was panic. But I've come across a lot of restaurant owners, dance teachers, yoga teachers, um, even people who own spas and just off the wall type of businesses too, that have found a way to give and be of value and just they've turned their marketing around so they're still super relevant and people are still tuning in and listening to what they have to say because they've tapped into the empathy,
mm,
exactly what you're saying, and they've put being salesy to the side and just showing up for people. So important.
mm. Amen.
Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so speaking of giving, you have a special offer or gift for our audience. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, sure. I when we first got on, you were asking me about something that I could do, and this is something that I'll offer just to the audience here that's listening and registered for your course here. And so, if anybody would like a one-on-one free without sales coaching session, a 30-minute coaching session, I can get a lot done in 30 minutes, and we can discover and play with one thing that's challenging you or your business, and help you through that. Um, so that's what I do for a living. I'm really excited about helping anyone that I can get through that, and anybody in your audience that would love to be a part of that, I'd love to help them. So just go to my website, bryankramer.com, and it is Bryan with a Y, not Bryan with an I, and Kramer with a K. So if you go to my website, then you can click on the contact button, and then just make sure that you use Brandi Daniels in the subject line so that I know that it's from here, and we'll get you scheduled and going.
I'm definitely taking advantage of that, just so you
Oh,
know.
good, good, good. Oh, I can't wait. That'll be fun.
This whole segment has been so eye opening, and you've just touched on so many things. And I really love your approach. I mean, you're so calm the whole time you've been sitting here. And it's
It's
just, I mean, yeah, and everything you're talking about, it makes sense. And sometimes we just need to hear it again, hear it from
mm,
someone else, and then it clicks. So I really appreciate that from you.
thank thank you so much. Thank you. I wasn't always this way.
It's taken time.
It's taken time.
So as we wrap up, I have one more question to ask because this
Yeah.
is the Passionpreneur Series. And you kind of already alluded to this a minute ago, but have you found your passion?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I have. And it took me a long time. And that's what I said about I wasn't always this way.
Yeah,
Absolutely. The 3 years ago, I went. My wife and I left our agency, and the reason is because I was speaking 200 days a year. I had put on 60 pounds. I got diabetes. I was working my ass off, speaking everywhere, but traveling everywhere. But those club sandwiches at hotels at midnight were just so delicious, and so anyway, I ended up um, just basically just yeah, I was at the end of my rope, and on the outside looking in, everyone said, "Oh my gosh, he's living the life, he's living the dream." But on the inside, I was really burned out and dying inside of all that, missing my family and all the good stuff that comes with life. And and so I cut it off, and basically transitioned into what I'm doing now, which is I miss all those people, but I'm doing I have zero employees, and I've built a business around my life,
yeah,
and in giving back and serving others and coaching others to create the life that they deserve, that they want, and how can they do that. And I use both, it's a business performance and creating this life balance that allows you to have everything that you want. And so that I did the you can't, you have to, it's like the oxygen masks on an airplane. You got to put it on yourself first before you can
yes.
put it on others. And so I did that 3 years ago, and I am now living fully into my purpose and my passion, and I love it. I'm so in love with my life right now. It's, and to be able to say that even feels good. So yeah, thank you for asking that.
Absolutely. And it's amazing to watch you because literally your whole body energy just changed.
Ah,
You can feel it. You just kind of like sunk in. You're like, just you can totally read it.
oh, good, good, good,
Well,
good.
well, Brian, thank you so much again for your time, your wisdom, your expertise, everything. I appreciate it. I know our audience does. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You got it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to my 30-minute coaching call. I'll be signing up for that shortly.
We will
And
have it. I can't
definitely.
wait.
And you guys, do not let this opportunity pass you by. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to have a chance to speak with an expert, to talk about your business and get some one on one coaching. 30 minutes, complimentary. Take advantage. So, as you know, after this interview, you'll get an email with all of Brian's information, how to contact him, where to find him on social media, his website, and a direct link to the offer. So, stay connected. Thank you, Brian, again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Go get
Thank
the
you.
sun if you can. I know I'm going to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will do it and think of you.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye, you guys.